If you think the food shortages of 2020 were bad, the new numbers for 2026 look worse. 7 major food categories are already flagged for possible disappearance, not in a distant future, in the next supply cycle. The signs are here. The reports are public. Most people have no idea what is coming. Walk into your grocery store today. Look at the shelves. Then imagine those same shelves with sudden empty spaces, gaps that stretch longer each week, labels for items that never get stocked again. That is how shortages start. Slow at first, then fast, then permanent. Let me ask you something. How many weeks of food do you keep in your home right now? 1 week? 2? Type your number in the comments. You might be surprised at how many people answer with a very small number. The return of empty shelves is not a guess or a scary story. It is a pattern built from hard data. Farmers see it. Analysts see it. Major food companies see it. They do not talk loudly about it because they do not want to panic. But the numbers do not lie. Let us walk through the 7 food categories that face the highest risk in 2026. Some of these may shock you. Category 1 is meat. Beef and poultry supplies look fragile going into the new year. Several factors collide at the same time. Feed costs remain high. Drought in western states reduced grazing land. Many ranchers cut their herds over the past 3 years. Those cuts do not recover fast. A calf born this year will not reach the market for about 2 years. The USDA reported that the national cattle herd fell to the lowest level in several decades. Poultry farms face their own crisis. Disease outbreaks force the destruction of millions of birds. Each outbreak hits the industry with a long recovery time. If you noticed higher prices for beef and chicken in the past year, that was the early sign. Price spikes often appear before shortages. Ask yourself this. If the price of your favorite protein doubled, would you still buy it or switch to something else? Category 2 is grains. Wheat, corn, and rice face weather pressure and fertilizer costs that never return to normal levels. Several major producing regions recorded lower yields due to heat waves, soil stress, and water shortages. Grain prices depend on global supply. When one region fails, others must make up the gap. That gap is getting wider. Ukraine and Russia supply a large share of global wheat. Conflicts in that region disrupted supply routes and raised costs. Farmers in the United States then had to compete with these global pressures. Fertilizer costs rose sharply during the last spike and remain higher than pre-pandemic levels. Grain production became more expensive, so many farmers reduced planting. Grains are the backbone of the food system. They feed livestock. They fill shelves. They support almost every packaged item in the store. When grains fall short, the entire food chain feels it. Category 3 is fruit crops. Oranges, apples, berries, and citrus crops face climate threats that grow each year. Florida lost large sections of its citrus groves after storms, disease, and long-term decline. Some citrus disease strains spread faster than growers can contain them. As a result, orange juice supplies already sit near historic lows. Apple growers in several northern states also reported lower yield after unusual heat spikes followed by sudden cold snaps. Berry farms deal with water shortages and wildfire smoke that affects plant growth. Fruit supply chains rely on steady weather. The weather is no longer steady. Have you noticed smaller fruit packages in stores or fewer sales on produce? Shrinking supply often appears as shrinking portions. Category 4 is vegetables. Vegetable growers face many of the same weather issues as fruit farms. Heat waves and long dry periods force farmers to cut planting. Water restrictions in western states limit the size of vegetable crops. California produces a large share of leafy greens, tomatoes, and other vegetables. When California struggles, the rest of the country feels the impact. Storms in the southern United States also damage fields and greenhouses. Heavy rain floods fields, which slows planting. The next cycle becomes weaker. Each lost season creates a ripple effect that lasts months. Vegetables seem stable in stores right now, but supply reports show growing stress. If you had to name one vegetable you eat every day, what would it be? Picture that item out of stock for weeks. Category 5 is dairy. Dairy farms face higher feed costs. labor shortages, and energy costs. Many small dairy farms closed during the last few years because they could not keep up with expenses. Larger operations remain, but fewer farms mean fewer cows, and fewer cows mean lower milk output. Butter and cheese supplies fluctuate more than many people expect. When grain prices rise, dairy costs rise. When fuel prices rise, transport costs rise. A simple rise in cost at each step pushes dairy into shortage risk. The USDA reported tight butter supplies last year. Milk supply also fell in several regions. If these trends continue, dairy shelves may look thinner in the near future. Category 6 is imports. Several foods in American stores come from international suppliers. Coffee, cocoa, spices, olive oil, some fish, and many fresh fruits depend on imports. Global shipping remains unstable. Port congestion, labor strikes, high fuel costs, and political tensions can all interrupt the steady flow of imported foods. Coffee crop reports show lower yield in some major producing countries due to heat and unusual rain. Cocoa prices reached record highs because of crop disease in West Africa. Olive oil prices spiked after drought hit key producing regions. When imports break down, American stores feel it quickly. Certain items vanish. Prices explode. Shoppers switch to alternatives, which creates shortages in those items too. Category 7 is processed and packaged foods. This category includes canned goods, boxed meals, snacks, and shelf-stable items. These seem safe, but they depend on grains, oils, vegetables, and stable factory output. When any part of the chain breaks, the finished products become harder to produce. Labor shortages in food processing plants slowed production in several regions. Higher costs for ingredients pushed some companies to reduce output to protect profit. Transport companies raised shipping rates. All these factors add stress to a system that already runs thin. If you saw fewer options in canned soups, frozen meals, or certain snacks recently, that was a sign of pressure in this category. Now that we covered the 7 at-risk categories, we need to understand why these shortages may hit at the same time. 3 major trends drive this. First, global supply stress. Food production depends on weather, trade, and transport. Each one showed instability in the past 2 years. The same problems that caused shortages in 2020 and 2021 are still present. They never fully went away. Second, rising input costs. Farmers and producers pay more for fuel, fertilizer, feed, labor, equipment, and transport. Higher costs reduce planting and livestock numbers. Once production falls, it cannot recover quickly. A lower supply becomes normal until investment returns. That investment is not coming fast enough. Third, population and demand. The United States population keeps growing. Food demand grows with it. When output falls and demand rises, shelves thin. Some items vanish. Stores hide shortages by spreading inventory or reducing package sizes. Full empty shelves often appear later in the cycle. So what does this mean for you? If you rely on a favorite protein, grain, fruit, or dairy item, you may see higher prices or sudden gaps. You may switch brands or buy smaller portions. You may check multiple stores for items that used to be everywhere. You may notice fewer sales and more limits on bulk purchases. If you live in a rural area, shortages may hit earlier because your stores restock less often. If you live in a city, shortages may show up in price tags before shelves are empty. Let me ask you this. Which item would hurt your household the most if it vanished for 1 month? Type it in the comments. Many people watching this will feel the same concern. Now let us look ahead. Empty shelves in 2026 will not look like the panic of 2020. They will be slower and more controlled. Stores will still operate. You will still shop. The shelves will not be fully empty. They will have pockets of missing items. Certain categories will thin. Substitutes will cost more. Your bill will rise even if you buy less. The danger is not complete collapse. The danger is quiet decline. You may not notice the shortage until it hits your routine. Your morning eggs, your weekly product, your evening snacks, your meals for your kids. These small shortages build until shoppers begin to talk about them. Then they become headlines. This is why early awareness matters. It gives you time to plan. You cannot control global supply. You cannot control drought or disease, but you can understand risk and prepare in small ways. Buy a little extra shelf-stable food when prices are calm. Use your freezer for meats that may rise in price. Keep a small backup supply of grains or canned goods. Check your store for signs of thinning inventory. Do not panic. Just stay aware. The data for 2026 shows stress in many parts of the food system. Stress does not always lead to disaster, but ignoring stress is how disaster grows. If this video helped you understand why empty shelves may return and which foods face the highest risk, hit like. Share it with someone who still thinks shortages were only a past event. And subscribe for Clear and Grounded talk about the forces that shape your daily life. This channel is here for people who want a warning before the next change arrives, not after.